We interrupt the regularly scheduled mass programming feeds. Watchmen bring this announcement to the earth. A famine of the word of YaHuWaH is found on the earth. Plagues are poured out in judgment. Important words of the Creator YaHuWaH have been dismissed. Without the word, people are not living abundantly. My people perish for lack of knowledge. There is a city whose builder is YaHuWaH Aloha. There is healing for the nations. A light unto the Gentiles, restore all truth. Join us as we share from the word of YaHuWaH.
We are going to be studying today from Genesis 32 to 36 and Hosea 11 through 12:12, Obadiah, Matthew 2, a few verses there, 26, a few verses there, and verses 11 to 20. Tobias is going to read it in Genesis for us until he gets tired over there in Germany.
Genesis 32, and Jacob went on his way, and the messengers of Elohim met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of Elohim," and he called the name of that place Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother in the land of Seir, the field of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, "Say this to my master Esau, your servant Jacob said this, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. And I have bulls and donkeys, flocks and male and female servants. And I have sent to inform my master to find favor in your eyes." So the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to your brother Esau, and he also is coming to meet you, and 400 men with him." And Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. So he divided the people that were with him and the flocks and herds and camels into two groups, and he said, "If Esau comes to the one group and attacks it, then the other group which is left shall escape." And Jacob said, "O Elohim of my father Abraham and Elohim of my father Yitzchak, YaHuWaH, who said to me, return to your land and to your relatives, and I do good to you. I do not deserve the least of all kind acts and all the truth which you have shown your servant, for I passed over this Jordan with my staff, and now I have become two groups. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he come and shall smite me and the mother with the children. For you said, I shall certainly do good to you, and shall make your seed as the sand of the sea, which are too numerous to count." And he spent the night there and took what came to his hand as a present for Esau his brother, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 foals. And he gave into the hand of his servants every drove by itself, and said to his servants, "Pass over before me and put some distance between drove and drove." And he commanded the first one, saying, "When Esau, my brother, meets you and asks you, saying, to whom do you belong and where are you going? And those are these in front of you. Then you shall say, they are your servant Jacob's. It is a present sent to my master Esau, and see, he also is behind us." So he commanded the second and the third and all who followed the drove, saying, "Speak to Esau the same word when you find him. And you shall say, also look, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, let me appease him with the present that goes before me, and after that see his face. He might accept me." And the present passed over before him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 female servants and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford of YaBeQ. And he took them and sent them over the stream, and sent over what he had. And Jacob was left alone. And the man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. And when he saw that he did not overcome him, he touched the socket of his hip. And the socket of Jacob's hip was dislocated as he wrestled with him. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaks." But he said, I'm not letting you go until you have baruched me. So he asked him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, your name is no longer called Jacob, but YaShaREL, because you have striven with Elohim and with man and have overcome. And Jacob asked him, saying, please let me know your name. And he said, why do you ask about my name? And he baruched him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. And the sun rose on him as he passed over Penuel, and he limped on his hip. And that is why the children of YaShaREL to this day do not eat the sinew of the hip, which is on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket of the thigh of Jacob in the sinew of the hip.
All right, move on to 33.
And Jacob lifted his eyes and looked and saw Esau coming, and with him 400 men. And he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the 2 female servants. And he put the female servants and their children in front, and Leah and her children behind, and Rachel and Joseph last. And he himself passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted his eyes and saw the woman and children and said, who are these with you? And he said, the children with whom Elohim has favored your servant. Then the female servants came near, and they and their children and bowed themselves. And Leah also came near with her children, and they bowed themselves. And Joseph and Rachel came near, and they bowed themselves. And Esau said, what do you mean by all this company which I met? And he said, to find favor in the eyes of my master. But Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Let what you have remain yours. And Jacob said, no, please. If I have now found favor in your eyes, then receive my present from my hand, because I have seen your face like seeing the face of Elohim, and you were pleased with me. Please take my baruchah that is brought to you, because Elohim has favored me, and because I have all I need. And he urged him, and he took it. And he said, let us depart and go, and let me go before you. But he said to him, my master knows that the children are weak, and the flocks and the herds which are nursing are with me. And if the man should drive them hard one day, all the flocks shall die. Please let my master go before his servant, and let me lead on slowly according to the pace of the livestock that go before me, and according to the pace of the children, until I come to my master in Seir. And Esau said, please let me leave with you some of the people who are with me. But he said, why this? Let me find favor in the eyes of my master. And Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. And Jacob set out to Sukkot and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. That is why the name of the place is called Sukkot. And Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Padan Aram. And he pitched his tent before the city. And he brought the portion of the field where he had pitched his tent from the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 kesitah. And he set up an altar there and called it El Elohe YaShaREL.
Okay, Genesis 34. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Ya'aqob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the land, saw her and took her and lay with her and humbled her. And his being clung to Dinah, the daughter of Ya'aqob, and he loved the girl and spoke kindly to the girl. And Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, take this girl for me for a wife. And Ya'aqob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with his livestock in the field, so Ya'aqob kept silent until they came. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Ya'aqob to speak with them. And the sons of Ya'aqob came in from the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved and very wroth. because he had done a senseless deed in YaShaREL by lying with Yaakov's daughter, which should not be done. But Hamor spoke with them, saying, My son Shechem's being longs for your daughter. Please give her to him for a wife, and intermarry with us. Give us your daughters, and take our daughters for yourselves, and dwell with us, and let the land be before you. Dwell and move about in it, and have possessions in it. And Shechem said to her father and her brothers, Let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me, I give. Ask for me a bride price, and give ever so high, and I give according to what you say to me. But give me the girl for a wife. But the sons of Ya'aqob answered Shechem and Hamor his father, and spoke with deceit, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said to them, We are not able to do this matter, to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a reproach to us. Only on this condition would we agree to you, if you become as we are, and have every male of you circumcised. Then we shall give our daughters to you, and take your daughters to us, and we shall dwell with you, and shall become one people. But if you do not listen to us and be circumcised, we shall take our daughter and go. And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young man did not delay to do this, because he delighted in Yaakov's daughter. Now he was more respected than all the household of his father. And Hamor and Shechem his son came to the city of their gate, and spoke with the men of their city, saying, These men are at peace with us, so let them dwell in the land, and move about in it, and see the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters for us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition would the men agree to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised. Their herds and their possessions and all their beasts, should they not be ours? Only let us agree with them, and let them dwell with us. And all who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and Shechem his son. Every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of his city. And it came to be on the third day, when they were in pain, the two of the sons of Ya'aqob, Shimon and Lewi, Dinah's brothers, each took his sword and came boldly upon the city, and killed all the males. And they killed Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah from Shechem's house, and went out. The sons of Ya'aqob came upon the slain, and plundered the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their flocks and their herds and their donkeys, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives they took captive. And they plundered all that was in the houses. And Ya'aqob said to Shimon and Lewi, You have troubled me by making me a stench among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I am few in number. They shall gather themselves against me, and shall smite me, and I shall be destroyed, my household and I. But they said, Should he treat our sister like a whore?
All right.
Genesis chapter 35. And Elohim said to Ya'aqob, Arise, go up to Bethel, and dwell there, and make an altar there to El, who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother. And Ya'aqob said to his household and to all who were with him, Put away the foreign mighty ones that are among you, and cleanse yourselves, and change your garments. And let us arise and go up to Bethel, and let me make there an altar to El, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me all the way which I have gone. So they gave Ya'aqob all the foreign mighty ones which were in their hands, and all their earrings which were in their ears, and Ya'aqob hid them under the terebinth tree which was near Shechem. And they departed, and the fear of Elohim was upon the cities that were all around them, and they did not pursue the sons of Ya'aqob. And Ya'aqob came to Luz, that is, Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. And he built there an altar, and called the place El Bethel, because there Elohim appeared to him when he fled from the face of his brother. And Deborah, Ribkah's nurse, died, and she was buried below Bethel under the terebinth tree. So the name of it was called Elon Bakus. And Elohim appeared to Ya'aqob again when he came from Padam Aram and Baruch him. And Elohim said to him, Your name is Yaakov. Your name is no longer called Yaakov, but YaShaREL is your name. So he called his name YaShaREL. And Elohim said to him, I am El Shaddai, bear fruit and increase. A nation and a company of nations shall be from you, and sovereigns come from your body. And the land which I give Abraham and Isaac, I give to you, and to your seed after you I give this land. And Elohim went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him. And Yaakov set up a standing column in the place where he had spoken with him, a monument of stone. And he poured a drink offering on it, and he poured oil on it. And Yaakov called the name of the place where Elohim spoke with him, Bethel. Then they set out from Bethel, and it came to be, when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath, that Rachel began to give birth, and had great difficulty giving birth. And it came to be, as she was having great difficulty giving birth, that the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, for it is another son for you." And it came to be, as her life was going out, for she died, that she called his name Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is, Bethlehem. And Yaakov set a standing column on her grave, which is the monument of Rachel's grave to this day. And YaShaREL set out and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Eder. And it came to be, when YaShaREL dwelt in that land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine. And YaShaREL heard about it. Now the sons of Yaakov were 12. The sons of Leah were Reuben, Yaakov's firstborn, and Shimon, and Lewi, and Yehudah, and Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's female servant, were Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's female servant, were Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Yaakov, who were born to him in Paddan Aram. And Yaakov came to his father Yitzhak at Mamre, or Kiriath Arba, which is Hebron, where Abraham and Yitzhak had dwelt. And the days of Yitzhak were 180 years. So Yitzhak breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people, aged and satisfied of days. And his sons Esau and Yaakov buried him.
And this is the genealogy of Esau, who is Edom. Esau took his wives from the daughters of Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibon the Huite, and Basemath, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nabaioth, and Ada bore Eliphaz to Esau, and Basemath bore Reuel. And Oholibamah bore Yeush and Yalam and Korah. These were the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. And Esau took his wives and his sons and his daughters and all the beings of his household and his herds and all his beasts and all his possessions which he had gained in the land of Canaan, and went to a land away from the presence of his brother Yaakov. For their possessions were too great for them to dwell together, and the land of their sojournings could not support them because of their herds. So Esau dwelt in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. And this is the genealogy of Esau, the father of the Edomites in Mount Seir. These were the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, son of Ada, wife of Esau, and Reuel, son of Basemath, wife of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Timon, Omar, Zepho, and Gatam, and Kenaz. And Timnah was the concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bore Amalek to Eliphaz. These were the sons of Ada, Esau's wife. These were the sons of Reuel, Nahath and Zerach, Shema and Mizah. These were the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. These were the sons of Oholibamah, Esau's wife, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibon, and she bore to Esau Yeush and Yalam and Korah. These were the chiefs of the sons of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau, were Chief Timon, Chief Omar, Chief Zepho, and Chief Kenaz, Chief Korah, Chief Gatam, Chief Amalek. These were the chiefs of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. They were the sons of Ada. And these were the sons of Reuel, Esau's son, Chief Nahath, Chief Zerach, Chief Shema, and Chief Mizah. These were the chiefs of Reuel in the land of Edom. These were the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. And these were the sons of Oholibamah, Esau's wife, Chief Yeush, Chief Yalam, and Chief Korah. These were the chiefs descending from Oholibamah, Esau's wife, the daughter of Anah. These were the sons of Esau, who is Edom, and these were their chiefs. These were the sons of Seir, the Horite, who inhabited the land, Lotan and Shobal and Sibon and Anah, and Dishon and Etzer and Dishon. These were the chiefs of the Horites, the sons of Seir in the land of Edom. And the sons of Lotan were Hori and Heman. Lotan's sister was Timnah, and these were the sons of Shobal, Alwan and Manahath and Abal and Shepho and Onam. And these were the sons of Sibon, both Ayah and Anah. This was the Anah who found the water in the wilderness as he fled the donkeys of his father Sibon. And these were the children of Anah, Dishon and Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah. And these were the sons of Dishon, Hemdan and Eshban and Yithron and Keran. These were the sons of Etzer, Bilhan and Zaawan and Akan. These were the sons of Dishon, Utz and Aran. These were the chiefs of the Horites, Chief Lotan, Chief Shobal, Chief Zibon, Chief Anah, Chief Dishon, Chief Etzer, and Chief Dishon. These were the chiefs of the Horites, according to their chiefs in the land of Seir. And these were the sovereigns who reigned in the land of Edom before any sovereign reigned over the children of YaShaREL. And Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhabah. And Bela died, and Yobab, son of Zerach of Botzrah, reigned in his place. And Yobab died, and Husham of the land of the Timonites reigned in his place. And Husham died, and Hadad, son of Bedad, who smote Midian in the field of Moab, reigned in his place. And the name of his city was Awith. And Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigned in his place. And Samlah died, and Shaul of Rehoboth by the river reigned in his place. And Shaul died, and Baal Hanan, son of Akbor, reigned in his place. And Baal Hanan, son of Akbor, died, and Hadar reigned in his place. And the name of his city was Pa'u, and his wife's name was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mezahab. And these were the names of the chiefs of Esau, according to their clans and their places, by their names: Chief Timnah, Chief Alwa, Chief Yacheth, Chief Oholibamah, Chief Elah, Chief Pinon, Chief Kenaz, Chief Timon, Chief Mibsar, Chief Magdiel, Chief Iram. These were the chiefs of Edom, according to their dwelling places in the land of their possession. Esau was the father of the Edomites. All right, so now we're going to Hosea chapter.
I'm glad I skipped that chapter.
Right?
I got out of it. I did not realize there'd be so many names in there.
My.
I'm sorry.
No worries. I
It's
was
so hard, isn't it?
I
Yeah,
was
you did
thankful
well.
that it fell to me. Because it is challenging to listen to
Mm.
through all those names. All that genealogy of Esau. All right.
Mm.
Hosea.
And now I want to know the translation of the word chief. I think it's also prince.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We can
later.
Yeah. So 11, we're going to go from 7, and then we're going to go to 12:12.
So this is Hosea chapter.
Yeah, we're in 11, starting with 7, and then we're going to go to 12:12.
My people are bent towards backsliding from me. Though they call to the Most High, he lifts none of them up. How could I give you up, Ephraim? How could I hand you over, YaShaREL? How could I make you like Adamah? How could I set you like Zeboim? My heart turns within me. All my compassion is kindled. I shall not let the heat of my wrath burn. I shall not turn to destroy Ephraim. For I am El, and not man, a set apart one in your midst, and I shall not come in enmity. Let them follow YaHuWaH. Like a lion he roars. When he roars, then suns shall tremble from the west. They shall tremble like a bird from Mitzrayim, and like a dove from the land of Ashur. And I shall let them dwell in their own houses, declared YaHuWaH. Ephraim has surrounded me with lying, and the house of YaShaREL with deceit. But Yehudah is still wandering with El, and is true to the set apart one. Hosea chapter 12. Ephraim is feeding on wind and pursuing an east wind. All the day he increases falsehood and ruin, and they make a covenant with Ashur, and oil is sent to Mitzrayim. And YaHuWaH has a controversy with Yehuda to punish Ya'aqob according to his ways, to repay him according to his deeds. He took his brother by the heel and the womb, and in his strength he strove with Elohim. He strove with the messenger and overcame. He wept and sought his favor. He found him in Bethel, and there he spoke to us. Even YaHuWaH, Elohim of hosts. YaHuWaH is his remembrance. Therefore return to your Elohim. Guard kindness and right ruling, and wait on your Elohim continually. A merchant, in his hand are scales of deceit. He loves to oppress. And Ephraim says, indeed, I have become rich. I have found wealth for myself. In all my labors they shall find in me no crookedness that is sin. But I am YaHuWaH your Elohim, since the land of Mitzrayim. Again I shall make you dwell in tents, as in the days of the appointed time. And I have spoken to the prophets, and have increased visions. And through the prophets I gave parables. Is Gilead wicked? Certainly they have been false. In Gilgal they have offered bulls. Also their altars are as heaps on a ploughed field. And when Ya'aqob fled to the country of Aram, YaShaREL served for a wife, and for a wife he kept watch. And by a prophet YaHuWaH brought YaShaREL out of Mitzrayim, and by a prophet he was watched over. Ephraim has provoked most bitterly, so his master left his blood guilt on him, and repaid him for his reproach.
All right, so the next scripture is Obadiah.
You can hear the word Yah at the end of that name too, can't you?
Yeah, Obadiah.
The vision of Obadiah. This is what the Master YaHuWaH had said concerning Edom. We have heard a report from YaHuWaH, and a messenger has been sent among the nations, saying, arise and let us rise up against her for battle. See, I have made you small among the nations, you are greatly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you, you who dwell in the clefts of the rock, whose dwelling is high, who say in your heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though you rise high as the eagle, and though you set your nest among the stars, from there I shall bring you down, declares YaHuWaH. If thieves came to you, if robbers by night, how ruined you would have been. Would they not steal till they had enough? If grape gatherers had come to you, would they not leave gleaning? How Esau shall be searched out, his hidden treasure shall be sought out. All your allies shall send you forth to the border. Your friends shall deceive you and overpower you. They make your bread a snare under you without you discerning it. In that day, declares YaHuWaH, I shall destroy the wise men from Edom, and discernment from the mountains of Esau. And your mighty men shall be discouraged, O Tiamat, so that everyone from the mountains of Esau is cut off by slaughter. Because of your violence against your brother, Ya'aqob, let shame cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. In the day that you stood on the other side, in the day that strangers took captive his wealth, when foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you also were like one of them. And you should not have looked on your brother's day in the day of his estrangement, nor rejoiced over the children of Yehuda in the day of their destruction, nor made your mouth great in the day of distress, nor have entered the gate of my people in the day of their calamity, nor looked down on their evil in the day of their calamity, nor have seized their wealth in the day of their calamity, nor have stood at the parting of the way to cut off his fugitives, nor handed over his survivors in the day of distress. For the day of YaHuWaH is near upon all the Gentiles. As you have done, it shall be done to you. Your reward shall come back on your own head. For as you have drunk on my set-apart mountain, so do all the Gentiles drink continually, and they shall drink and shall swallow, and they shall be as though they had never been. But on Mount Zion there shall be an escape, and they shall be set apart, and the house of Ya'aqob shall possess their possessions. And the house of Ya'aqob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, but the house of Esau a stubble. And they shall burn among them, and they shall consume them, so that no survivor is left of the house of Esau, for YaHuWaH has spoken. And they shall possess the south with the mountains of Esau, and low country with the Philistines. And they shall possess the fields of Ephraim, and the fields of Shomeron, and Benjamin with Gilead. And the exiles of this host of the children of YaShaREL possessed that of the Canaanites as far as Zarephath, and the exiles of Jerusalem who are in Sepharad possess the cities of the south. And saviors shall come to Mount Zion to judge the mountains of Esau, and the reign shall belong to YaHuWaH.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 houses there. I see 2 houses, and Esau, the third lesser house. That's not great news. What are we reading in Matthew?
We're going to read 2 different sections in Matthew. The first one's chapter 2, 13 to 23. Starting in 13, it's all the way through the end.
And when they had left, see, a messenger of YaHuWaH appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, take the child and his mother, and flee to Mitzrayim, and remain there until I bring you word. For Herodias is about to seek the child to destroy him. And rising up, he took the child and his mother by night and departed Mitzrayim, and remained there until the death of Herodias, to fulfill what was spoken by YaHuWaH through the prophet, saying, Out of Mitzrayim I have called my son. Then Herodias, having seen that he was fooled by the Magi, he greatly enraged, and he sent forth and slew all the male children of Bethlehem, and in all its borders from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had exactly learnt from the Magi. Then was filled what was spoken by Yirmiyahu the prophet, saying, A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing and weeping and mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted because there were no more. And Herodias, having died, seeing a messenger of YaHuWaH, appeared in a dream to Joseph and Mitzrayim, saying, Arise and take the child and his mother, go to the land of Israel, for those seeking the life of the child are dead. Rising up, he took the child and the mother and came to the land of Israel. But hearing that Archelaus was reigning over Yehuda instead of the father Herodias, he was afraid to go there, and having been warned in a dream, he departed to the parts of Galilee, and came and dwelt in the city of Nazareth. Thus, to fulfill what was spoken by the prophets, he shall be called a Nazarene.
All right, so next we're going to Matthew 26, verses 36 to 46.
Then Yeshua came to them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his taught ones, Sit here while I go over there and pray. And he took with him Kepha and 2 sons, Zebediah, and he began to grieve and deeply distressed. And he said to them, My being is greatly grieved, even to death. Stay here and watch with me. And going forward a little, he fell on his face and prayed, O Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I desire, but you desire. And he came to the taught ones and found them asleep, and said to Kepha, So you were not able to watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into trial. The spirit indeed is eager, but the flesh is weak. And again he went away a second time and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it is possible for this to pass, unless I drink of it, let your desire be done. And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them and went away and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same words. Then he came to his taught ones and said to them, Still sleeping and taking rest? See, the hour has come, and the Son of Adam is delivered up into the hands of the sinners. Rise, let us go. See, who delivers me up has come near.
So now we're going to go
Okay.
to Hebrews 11, and it's just verses 11 to 20.
By belief also, Sarah herself was enabled to conceive seed, and she bore a child when she was past the normal age, because she deemed him trustworthy who had promised. And so, from one and him as good as dead, were born as numerous as the stars in the heavens, as countless as the sand, which is by the seashore. In belief, all these died, not having received the promises, but seeing them from a distance, welcome and embrace them, and confess that they were aliens and strangers on the earth. For those who speak this way make it clear that they seek a fatherhood. And yet, if they had indeed kept remembering that place from which they had come out of, they would have had a chance to return. But now they long for a better place that is heavenly. Therefore, Elohim is not ashamed to be called their Elohim, for he has prepared a city for them. By belief, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he who had received the promise offered up his only brought forth son, of whom it is said, "In Isaac your seed shall be called," reckoning that Elohim was able to raise even the dead, from which he received him back as a type. By belief, Isaac blessed Ya'aqob and Esaw concerning that which was come.
All right, so we're going to go back to Genesis now, 32, and we're going to discuss and study. All right, so we just take a short little break there, and we are back to study through our reading today. So much of our reading is about Esau today, the whole line of Esau. Where is his families when this whole fight is going on? Have they gone ahead? He rose up that night and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and passed over. So they all passed over this ford, passed over. That might be an interesting word to look at as well. He took them, he sent them over the stream and sent over what he had, and he was alone. Okay, so he was alone. He was alone. Well, I want to look at this word. I want to look at verse 22 in our interlinear. Crossed over. This word, there's our Eber word. We might hear it in the word Nibiru, which is called the planet of the crossing. So he crossed over. Interesting. We got the same words here in the ford. And here we have Ya'aqob WaYiSh'LaCx. So we have Yod, Ayin, Kuf, Bet. And here we have, besides the Wa prefix, we have Yod, Aleph, Bet, Kuf. So Ya'aqob wrestled. Ya'aqob wrestled. Very interesting. There's probably so much more going on here in the Hebrew than there is in the English. Make it bigger so y'all can look at it. See the Ayin Bet Resh? He crossed over the ford. This is something to be crossed over. Very different numbers. We've got 5, 6, 7, 4 for this word here. And then we've got 4, it's 1,000 numbers different. So this word, the mem, is part of the word. It's not a prefix here. Let's go look at these 2 words. If you guys haven't seen the video, we've been sharing it recently. I don't think we have it on our channel, but I'm going to put it in the description. There's a video by a Rastafari guy. And my remembrance of the first video I saw, this is another version of that video, but he spoke at the beginning, why the heathen and the Shethen are afraid of Neberu, the planet of the crossing. And he looks at some ancient book, Mizmor Dawit, which is Psalm of David. And I think there's a chapter within that book called Kadase Miriam or Kadosh Miriam, set apart Mary is what that chapter, I believe, was called. But he shows in the Ethiopic text that it says, because of love, El came down. So he talks about why the heathen and the Shethen are afraid of Neberu. And Neberu is the crossing. And so that's the same word here. To pass over, through, by, pass on is Brown Driver Briggs. Go down here and look for a primitive root. Here we go. Here's our primitive root, to cross over. To cross over. Used very widely of any transition, literal or figurative. So some sort of a transition, specifically to cover in copulation. Okay, that's a different meaning altogether. Alienate, alter, crossover at all. Also says carry over. Beyond, bring over, bring through, carry over, overcome, come on, come over, conduct or conduct over, convey over, current, Interesting word. Deliver, do away, enter, escape, fail. Here's an interesting word. Gender. I guess we've heard of crossing over genders, haven't we? Get over, make or go away, beyond, go by, go forth, go his way, go in, go on, go over, go through, have a way more, lay, meddle, overrun, make partition. That's like a boundary. Cause to, give, make to, overpass. Cause to pass, give, pass, make to pass, overpass, or passage, pass along, pass away, pass beyond, pass by, passenger. Interesting. So this word can be used for the word passenger. Pass on, pass out, pass over, pass through, cause to, proclaim or make proclaim, proclamation. It's just an interesting word. It has all of these different definitions and uses. Perish, provoke to anger, put away, rage. So when you cross over, you might put away something. You put yourself away from whatever you're crossing away from. Rage, raiser of taxes. That's interesting. Remove, send over, set apart. That's Kodesh. Shave, cause to or make sound. Cross speedily. Sweet smelling, take away, make to transgress or transgressor. Translate, turn away. This would be this transgressor idea, turn away. Wayfaring man, and also be wrath. So they have the short list here: alienate, alter, at all, beyond, bring over, through, carry over, and overcome on. So that's our word here, eber. Get back to the top, and then we'll go look at the other word that begins with a mem, and this same word, abar. This one says ford, and we've got the aleph taw. Ford, passing or pass. We don't have a previous root here, but it is telling us to see a bar, which we just did. So it's a ford or place where passing is happening. From a bar, it's a crossing place. It's the place you cross. Of a river, a ford, of a mountain, a pass, abstractly a transit, figuratively overwhelming, ford, place where, we talked about place last week in our study. Pass and passage. So again, when we look at the Hebrew, we've got YaYa'abor, 8 ma'abar. And then we've got YaBeQ here. So I want to look at this word as well, because when we think of Ya'aqob, that's a yod, and then it's an ayin, yod ayin kuf bet, Ya'aqob. So he's crossing over, his family is crossing over the YaBeQ. It has 3 of the 4 letters of Ya'aqob. The only one it's missing is the ayin. It says it's probably from Bakak, bet kuf kuf, pouring forth. So it's a river that pours forth, but it's so interesting because this has letters from Ya'aqob's name. A primitive root to pour out. So this is where this wrestling is happening. His name is Ya'aqob, and then they're passing over. This is happening at the YaBeQ. To pour out, to empty, figuratively to depopulate, by analogy to spread out, as a fruitful vine. Make or empty out, fail utterly, make void. So a making empty, and his name is getting changed here. So I think it's interesting that this wrestling is happening at this YaBeQ.
Yeah, it's very interesting about the new name.
Yeah.
Especially when you cross over.
Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day.
With the new name that he received. When it comes to scripture, it says that Abraham received the hay, so he received another name. Same as Sarah, same with Peter, same with Shaul, which became Paul. And doesn't it talk about in scripture in Isaiah that YaHuWaH will bestow a new name on us? And also in the book of Revelation?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it in Revelation.
I used to always think when you broke down the word Israel, Yah is real. So.
Yeah. All right. So let's go and look at 27 as well, 27 and 28. So we'll just refresh on Ya'aqob's name. His name's about to get changed in the next verse. So here you see Yod, Ayin, Kuf, Bet. And we have to actually visit Klein's dictionary also to get some information on this. We've got heel catcher from Ya'aqob, heel catcher. To follow at the heel, assail insidiously, circumvent, and overreach. Remember, this was a second born of a set of twins. So that's how his name came about. And you can see it's here in this form, Yod, Ayin, Kuf, Bet, Mem. It says possibly attack at the heel, but figurative is to hold back. And then just to review what it says in Klein's, with the Yod prefix, Kuf, Bet is to cube. Kuf, Bet, cubic meter, cube, cubicle. So with the Yod prefix, it's he will cube. All right. And then we're going to look at the next verse, 28, where he changes his name. And he said, not Ya'aqob shall you be called anymore, but YaShaREL. For you have struggled, sharit, with Elohim and with men, and have prevailed. Interesting word.
Prevailed is overcome, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going to look at it right now. It says to be able, have power. It's Yod, Kaf, Lamed. Interesting. So these are the 4 middle letters of the 22-letter alphabet. Kaf and Lamed are right in the middle. And so you have a Yod on one side and you have a Mem on the other. So you might say with Mem as a prefix, you would have to have power over them. Or they would have power, perhaps. I wonder if there is a Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem. We can find that on the right side all the way down. And we're looking for a Mem prefix here, a M. And I don't see one. So I don't see it spelled that way with a Mem. But here's one with a Wa. Let's see what this one. There's only happens one. I have overcome him. I have overcome him. I have prevailed against him. So it's the same word, although they spelled it a Yod, Kaf, Lamed, but then they have a Ta, Yod, Wa is actually the suffix. Ta, Yod, Wa. This one is with a Wa prefix and a Wa suffix, and it's and overpowered. Have overpowered. Kaf Lamed again, it's showing us here. Kaf Lamed means the word all. So interesting that the Yod Kaf Lamed is to overpower. And those shall say, have set upon you and prevailed against you. Yeah, so this is the U part, the Lamed Kaf. And prevailed, and they prevailed, I believe is the way that would be read. And overpowered and prevailed. There's something about this word, YaShaREL, this Sheen Resh. You're going to be called YaShaREL because you have struggled and you have prevailed. You've struggled with El. So the name part, the El, I believe, is coming from Elohim. And the Sheen Resh is something he shares with his grandmother, yes? Abraham's wife, his grandmother. He shares the Sheen Resh. Remember, she was Sheen Resh Yod. She was this part, Sheen Resh Yod.
And she received a hay.
And she received a hay, that's right. Well, he received an Aleph Lamed. I mean, except for the Yod, this is all new. He got a Sheen Resh Aleph Lamed. Sarita. With these vowel points, this is a S sound, not a SH. However, Eric Bissell makes a point that, of course, there wasn't vowel points when this was originally given. Yashar, to be smooth, be straight, be right, just uprightness. It was or became easy to be straight. He went straight, was right, was upright. He made smooth, made straight, made level. He led straight, directed, guided. He settled, was made smooth, was straightened, was made level. Became straight, became right, became upright. He straightened, made even, made level. Straight, right, pleasing, upright. Straightness, evenness, uprightness.
If you're enjoying this video, click like, subscribe, click the bell, and please share this video. Shalom. Let's get back to the video.
YaShaREL, the straight path to El. So that's why we say YaShaREL. But with the vowel points, it would be Yisrael, and Sarit. Okay, so just
The AL, Aleph, Yod, Lamed. That's where L comes from, or is the shortened form. 352 is the word, a ram, a mighty man, an oak tree. It's from Bereshit 15:9. Aleph Yod Lamed.
Is that here? Olive Yod?
It's the primitive root I've got here.
Oh, for
I
Olive
could be wrong.
There was a different reading than we normally see for YaHuWaH's title. And again, this is his title. Elohim is his chosen title, which is translated here to God, but that has a different meaning in Hebrew. That is a definitely different meaning. It's the Babylonian deity of fortune. So it's atrocious that it is a word that was given a different name. I don't think it was in this chapter though, but if maybe YaHuWaH will bring it to our eyes what we saw. It was a different title than I normally see. There was a couple of different titles. So your name is no longer called Ya'aqob, but YaShaREL, because you have striven with Elohim and with men and have overcome. And he wants to know his name. Please let me know your name. And he said, why do you ask me? Why do you ask about my name? And he baruched him there. Thought this was interesting as well. And Ya'aqob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. And the sun rose on him as he passed over Penuel. So we went from Peniel to Penuel. All right, I'm going to move on. And we have this whole interlude here between Ya'aqob and Esaw.
I've got a note that it says Ya'aqob is attempting to give back the barakah that he deceived his father from. Not the birthright, because that birthright was rightfully his, but the deception from the barakah that he received from his father when he pretended to be Esau. I thought that was interesting.
Where did you hear that?
It's just a note that I've got here in scripture.
Here's the title I was thinking of. I believe YaHuWaH brought it right to us, so that's awesome. So that's Elohai, but we don't normally see it spelled that way or looking that way.
What verse is that?
The last one. We are used to seeing it Elohai. We don't usually see them together like that. Elohai. But here he's called the El Most High of YaShaREL. This is 430.
Up until this point, YaHuWaH is being called the El of Abraham and Isaac. And now it's the Elohim of YaShaREL.
Yeah.
So.
And the first time we're hearing that, but we're going to hear it so many times in scripture now.
Yeah. So once he crossed over and he overcame and was given a new name, his Elohim became the creator of the universe.
So they're saying this is a form of Elohim. It is from this Elohim, is this Elohai. Yeah, this is the first time he's called the El Elohai YaShaREL. Okay, let's go back. So I'm just going to move on to 34 unless anybody wants to talk about them splitting up and going their own way and stuff like that. This is a very big chapter here, Dinah. It says Dinah, but it's Dinah in Hebrew, which is really cool. I have a sister named Dinah, and I never put those two together. There's a story about Dinah. It's in Jasher or Yobelim, Jubilees, or Jasher 1. Do you recall it, Teza, where Dinah had a daughter, and the daughter was raised by Yehuda. I think is the way the story goes. This daughter ended up, I think the way the story goes is this daughter ended up being adopted by Potiphar.
Yes. I think it's in the book of Jasher.
Okay. The daughter was adopted by Potiphar, and that's the one Joseph ended up marrying. As it Asenath?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So a lot of people say that he ended up marrying an Egyptian. Well, of course, all of the children of Joseph were half Egyptian in terms of like their race. However, it's told in if Jasher's the book, it's either Jasher or Jubilees, probably Jasher. It's told that she's actually his niece. She's actually like Shechem and Dinah, that there was a pregnancy and that child ended up in the home of Potiphar, and that ended up being the one that Joseph married. Pretty cool story.
Yes, I think it was Simeon that took her in.
Took her in, okay.
And
I'm strictly going by memory, so.
Yeah,
It's a
I
scary
think it was
place to be.
Simeon that Simeon took her in to take care of her, become like a wife, because we got to think of where did all the wives come from that married the sons. Okay, so after Shechem, after the father of this child that Dinah was pregnant with from the taking, he died when Simeon and Levi had went back to slaughter them.
Yeah.
And also in that story, when you're reading about it, the bride's price that they asked for, all they asked for was only circumcision.
Yeah.
But the story that's in behind in the book of Jasher is intriguing, because the grandfather of him who took Dinah said, this is not our custom. We're going to end up going to kill them after we're healed from our circumcision. And Dinah ended up hearing this, and she sent word.
Wow. So there's quite a bit more to the story. So they,
Jasher really goes into detail of it.
and so did they, according to that book and the story there, they knew about all that before they asked for the circumcision, right? They planned to go in and slaughter them. Is that correct, Tessa, as you recall it?
Only afterwards.
Yeah, but did they know about it before they asked for the circumcision? They already
No,
had, no, they didn't.
no, they did not.
Oh, wow.
It's Jasher 34, around chapter 18.
So that's where that story is Jasher 34 for the Shechem circumcision. So interesting that Ya'aqob is telling them, hey, you guys, you've made me disrespected here, and they're going to end up coming after us and killing us all. And they're like, but we did what was right, you know? Should he treat our sister like a whore?
Yeah, the book of Jasher is so much, there is so much more in it. And it seems like they've done the wrong thing, but it's actually the right thing, because they were told not to take on anyone that was from the line of Canaan because of the cursing.
Uh-huh.
So that was my understanding when I was reading it. It's been a little while since I've read it. I'm just looking at my notes.
So Shechem was this Hamor. Was this part of Esau or who Esau married into? It seemed like we read in this name.
I think Esau married into.
Esau married into this name.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of his wife's grandmothers or mother or something or other was part of the clan. And in Torah, it actually says, do not marry into, even though this is prior to it being spoken about. It would have been Torah from Shem.
So here's where in chapter 36 is where we talked about Esau's lineage. And of course, Amalek comes from here as well. We saw that. She bore Amalek.
Refresh who Amalek again is to me. It's early.
Yeah, Amalek was the one that YaHuWaH was against generation to
That's it.
generation, and it's in the book of Esther.
Yeah, that's it.
So I'm just kind of looking down to see if I see this. Was it Hamor? Anyway, I'm not seeing it here. I thought we might have read it. We'll just go ahead and look at this chapter now, and then we'll go back to 35. Yeah, I'm not seeing that Hamor name here. So we were talking about where did this Shechem group come from? I think if we go back to that chapter, we could also look at the commentary as well. Okay, and Shechem spoke to his father Hamor. Oh, so he's a Huite. So Hamor was a name. Shechem was a place. That becomes a place important for the Hebrews. So he was a Huite.
And the Huite is one of the wives of Esau, I thought.
It says Dinah paid the full penalty of her carelessness. She suffered the fate which Sarah and Rebekah encountered in the land of Pharaoh and Abimelech. She was seen and taken by the son of the prince forcibly, i.e. against her will in the first instance, though not it is apparent without the blandishments of a lover, and lay with her and defiled her, literally oppressed her, offered violence to her, once humbled her.
Yeah, they didn't give her back. He didn't. She stayed in the land, in the city there, and it was when Simeon and Levi went in, they took her from the city.
This says, during their stay at Shechem, Dinah, Jacob's daughter by Leah, went out one day to see, i.e. to make the acquaintance of the daughters of the land. When Shechem the Huite, the son of the prince, took her with him and seduced her, Dinah was probably between 13 and 15 at the time and had attained perfect maturity, for this is often the case in the East at the age of 12 and sometimes earlier. There is no ground for supposing her to have been younger, even if she was born after Joseph and not till the end of Jacob's 14 years of service with Laban, and therefore was only 5 years old when they left Mesopotamia. 8 or 10 years may have passed since then. And Ya'aqob may easily have spent from 8 to 11 years in Sukkot, where he had built a house, and Shechem, where he had bought a parcel of a field. But she cannot have been older, for according to Genesis 37:2, Joseph was sold by his brethren when he was 17 years old, i.e. in the 11th year after Ya'aqob's return from Mesopotamia, as he was born in the 14th year of Ya'aqob's service with Laban. Note
In the book of Jasher, they give the dates or the moons of when they were born. And Zebulon and Dinah, twins also.
Okay.
They were born in the 6th year of the 4th week, on the 7th of the 7th month. Joseph was born on the new moon of the 4th month in the 6th year of the 4th week.
So when was he, what is their age difference? Dana and Joseph?
There's not a lot of difference between them in their ages.
Who's older?
According to, Zebulon and Dinah are a little bit older, according to this. The 7th of the 7th month, or the new moon of the 4th month. So Joseph may have been that little bit older, the 6th year of the 4th week.
Were they within months of each other or years?
I think months.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
It says, in the interim between Dinah's seduction and the sale of Joseph, there occurred nothing but Ya'aqob's journey from Shechem to Bethel, and thence to Ephrata in the neighborhood of which Benjamin was born, and Rachel died, and his arrival in Hebron. This may all have taken place within a single year. Ya'aqob was still at Hebron when Joseph was sent to Shechem and sold by his brethren. And Isaac's death did not happen for 12 years afterwards, although it is mentioned in connection with the account of Ya'aqob's arrival at Hebron. So they think that says Joseph was sold by his brethren when he was 17 years old. So she could have been about 16.
I've read commentaries that in between the ages of 12 to 17. So.
Okay, yeah. There's no telling how young these girls were back in those Bible days as well. It seemed like they were quite a bit younger. And I think that's something they're trying to legalize now.
Mm.
And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, from whom the city had its name, near which Ya'aqob and his family now were, the Huite prince of the country, Hamor was a Huite, which was one of the nations of the land of Canaan. And this man was the prince of a principal man of that nation, as well as of Shechem. Josephus calls him a king. When the son of this man saw her, that is Dinah, what a beautiful person she was, and was enamored with her, he took her by force, as the Targum of Jonathan would say, and lay with her, and defiled her, or humbled or afflicted her. And it is a rule with the Jews that every such act which is done by force is called an humiliation and affliction. The child begotten in this act of fornication is said by them to be Asenath, who was had into Egypt and brought up by Potiphar's wife as her daughter, and afterwards married to Joseph. So here it is right here. They're telling you what's happened, what we were just talking about. And
that's it.
The woman that tried to seduce Joseph and got him arrested, she was raising the daughter that Joseph ended up marrying. So, I mean, it's just such an interesting story, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Everything's being revealed in these last days.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
A really great story. So yeah, Shechem was her father, biologically her father, although obviously dead before she was born. And Dinah was her mother, and that is who Joseph ended up marrying. And then he got Ephraim and Manasseh from her. So completely living right parallel with the nobility of Egypt at the time. And yet they were a Hebrew family.
Yes.
Really, really awesome story. Okay, so we're going to move on past this chapter, and we're just going to cover 36 and then move on to Hosea and Obadiah. I thought this was interesting. So YaHuWaH's, it says Elohim said to Ya'aqob, arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there. So now he's telling him where to go live. You know, you're going to move again. Make an altar there to El, who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau, your brother. So he's telling him to dwell. He's afraid that the people in the lands around him are going to come after him and kill all of them. But YaHuWaH is saying, go up to Bethel and dwell there. And Ya'aqob says, put away the foreign mighty ones. So evidently these foreign mighty ones have come in. All of a sudden they're there and have to be buried.
I wonder if Rachel had given over the ones that she stole from her father and all the ones that they would have, like, it's not just their idols, it's their gold and their silver also, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did they get that from Shechem? Because that's where they've just come from.
That's right. They definitely plundered that area. They plundered that area. They took, what did it say? Let's go back real quick.
And I do have a note here when it comes to Simeon and Levi in the barakah that their father Jacob gives them, and at the end of the book of Bereshit, has to do with this particular plunder.
What's your note?
So when when they've plundered it,
yeah,
they've taken it for themselves, right? They've taken the wives, the children, the gold, the silver, the cattle, etc.
That's where they must have got their wives.
Yes. And when it comes to the blessings, the barakah that Jacob says of Simeon and of Levi in Genesis 49, before he dies, he brings this particular time up.
Yes, he does.
I think that's very interesting.
Every male. So all the babies were circumcised as well. Now you've got them marrying into this tribe, and all of the males in this tribe, the ones that they left alive, the children, the little ones, they've been circumcised. Interesting.
Yeah, in Bereshit 49:5, it talks about the barakah that Simeon and Levi get from Jacob. Just a note.
Do you want to go over there and look at that?
That's up to you.
Yeah. Their weapons are implements of violence. So interesting here that he's talking to them right before he dies, gathered together so that I declared you what is to befall you in the last days. It's just a cryptic, like, well, he must not be talking to them. These tribes are all alive today, hidden. I declare to you what is to befall you in the last days. So he says, Shimon and Lewi are brothers. Their weapons are implements of violence. Let my being not enter their council. Let my esteem not be united to their assembly, because they slew a man in their displeasure, and they lamed an ox in pleasure. Cursed be their displeasure, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I divide them in Ya'aqob and scatter them in YaShaREL. Stephen M. Collins talks about where these tribes are today, and I believe he talks about, of course, you've got Shimon and Lewi. I mean, the tribe of Lewi is the one that ended up slaughtering the people when the golden calf incident happened.
They had a zealous love for Yah.
Yeah, they were the priest tribe. But he also talks about, of course, they're scattered with the other tribes. They're scattered, not together. Scattered them in YaShaREL. He talks about them. I'm talking about Stephen M. Collins right now in Israel's Tribes Today, his book. Talks about them being like undertakers. I think he said lawyers, musicians. Obviously, the priestly tribe were musicians as well. So they have musical gifts, they have legal gifts, undertakers. They're people that kind of have that fine, hard line on law. And then Shimon is he will hear.
Yes.
And again, we just talked about these boys being named. They were just named based on their mothers fighting over Ya'aqob's attention and love.
Did you read the comment that I put in last week's Torah portion?
I did not.
When you
think so.
With their names, and this is where you can take what is there. Behold, I am with you, and I will keep you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to the land It's in the names. It's in the names. Behold, a son is born to us. That's Reuben. Who hears us? Simeon. And become attached to us, Levi. Praise YaHuWaH, Judah. He judged, Dan. My wrestlings and struggle is Naphtali. Fortune is God. Happiness and barakah is Asher. For my reward and wages is Issachar. Dwelling and honor is Zebulun. Added and increase is Joseph. And son of righteousness, who was born in Bethlehem, is Benjamin. And when you put that all together, it is just such a beautiful, well, it tells the story. It's like the names, when the names of the father, through from father down to Noah. So in all of that, behold, a son is born to us who hears us and became attached to us. Praise YaHuWaH. He judged our struggles and brought us good fortune, happiness, and reward and honor. He added us to his family and called us the sons of his righteousness.
Please share.
That's the names.
Can you write that down and share with me, and I'll put it in our description?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you so much. That is so beautiful.
It is beautiful.
We'll get back to 35. Put away the foreign mighty ones. Interesting. Now he calls the place El Bethel. Then he goes back to Bethel after that.
Don't you think it's amazing how Benjamin was born in Bethel, and what was the meaning of his name? A son of righteousness.
Yamin is right hand.
Yes, the right hand of his righteousness. Well, that was my understanding. I'm happy to be show another.
Well, so we could go look at, as far as I know, it's right hand, but is it in scripture somewhere, right hand of is righteousness? Is that phrase somewhere? Let's see.
Just in the meanings of the names, I think it was. Or they might have just taken it from the Messianic.
Benjamin. So if we go look at that in 18, interlinear, verse 18. And it's also important because there's a country called Yemen. Well, it's not Yemen, it's Yamin. Son of the right hand, son of the right hand, son of right hand. We've got Yamin, right hand. So whatever the scriptures talk about the right hand, that may be where you're pulling meaning from.
Yeah.
He'll talk about his right hand, your right hand. Here's one, Exodus 15. Let's see, is there a first one?
That's quite possible where I got it from.
Or if you go to the right hand, yeah, that I may turn to the right hand. Is this part where we're talking about Ya'aqob? Genesis 24:49. Like, why did he name him son of the right hand? And now if you're going to show kindness and truth to my master, let me know. And if not, let me know so that I turn to the right or to the left.
Raquel was going to call him son of my sorrow. Jacob changed it.
Ephraim with his right hand. All right, let's look at this one. Well, this would be well past Joseph's. We don't know why he named him son of the right hand. I wonder if the commentary's got some ideas to share. Raquel, in her dying moments, names her child the son of my sorrow, for though own has a double meaning and is translated strength, yet doubtless her feeling was that the high of her offspring was purchased by her own pain and death. Jacob's name, son of the right hand, was probably given not merely that the child might bear no ill-omened title, no name that had two meanings, one an ill omen, but to mark his sense of the value and preciousness of his last-born son. The value and preciousness of his last-born son. Abra Vanel well remarks that earthly happiness is never perfect, and that the receiving of divine revelations made no difference to Jacob's earthly lot. Elohim had just solemnly appeared to him, and he is on his last journey within 2 days' easy march of Hebron, when he loses the wife whom he so loved. For more than 40 years he had been an exile from his home. He was now close to it, but may never welcome there the one for whom he had so deep and lasting an affection. Her soul was departing. When her soul was going out, namely of the body, an argument this of the soul's immortality, especially if compared with Ecclesiastes 12:7, which says, "Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the ruach shall return to Elohim who gave it." From which places collated, we learn both whence it goes and whither it goes. She called his name Benoni, the song of Solomon of my sorrow. Thus, by her own confession, the gaining her desire became her sorrow. A lively instance this of the folly of inordinately desiring anything temporal. The object obtained generally becomes a source of sorrow to us. Okay, the object obtained. So she wished for a son, and he brought a source of sorrow to her. But his father called him Benjamin, the son of my right hand. His father called him Benjamin, the son of my right hand, as near, dear, and precious to him as his right hand, which is both more useful and more honorable than the left. So it says, Psalm 80, verse 17, let your hand be on the man of your right hand, on the son of man whom you made strong for yourself. Interesting that that word strong was also there, which we were told the oni also has a meaning of strong or own. Or instead of his right hand, the staff, stay, and comfort of his old age. Ya'aqob seems to have given him this name rather than the other because he would not renew the sorrowful remembrance of his mother's death every time he called his son by name. It may be observed that both names were remarkably verified in his posterity. The tribe of Benjamin being remarkably brave and active, and yet involved in more sorrowful disasters than were experienced by any of the other tribes. Wow. So his mother's naming him had an effect on him, even though the father renamed him. So this brings us up to Matthew Henry says, Raquel had passionately said, give me children or else I die. And now that she had children, she died. The death of the body is but the departure of the soul to the world of spirits. So interesting, isn't that?
Yeah.
When shall we learn that it is Elohim alone who really knows what is best for his people, and that in all worldly affairs, the safest path for the believer is to say from the heart, it is the Adon, the master. Let him do what seems to him Tob. Here alone is our safety and our comfort, to know no will but his. Her dying lips called her newborn son, Benoni, the son of my sorrow. And many a son proves to be the heaviness of her that bare him. Children are enough the sorrow of their mothers. They should therefore, when they grow up, study to be their joy, and so, if possible, to make them some amends. But Ya'aqob, because he would not renew the sorrowful remembrance of the mother's death, every time he called his son, changed his name to Benjamin, the son of my right hand. That is very dear to me, the support of my age, like the staff in my right hand. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, he was the son of his old age, like Isaac was the son of Abraham's old age.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
It is. There's so much behind it all. The layer, it's onions, layer upon layer.
I heard a pastor talking, I think it was a pastor yesterday, may have been in the video I already mentioned today, but I don't remember if it was the same video or not. I think it was the black pastor guy who I didn't know, but he was talking about these children don't need behavior modification. This is not this is, they need redemption. This is not, when you look at a new baby, this is not a little angel. This is a viper in a diaper. He needs redemption. I never heard anybody say that, a viper in a diaper.
No.
They need redemption. Behavior modification, that's great, but it needs redemption.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Hosea. Hosea 11, verse 7. My people are bent towards backsliding from me. Though they call to the Most High, he lifts none of them up. How could I give you up, Ephraim? How could I hand you over, YaShaREL? How could I make you like Admah? How could I set you like Zeboim? My heart turns away within me. All my compassion is kindled. I shall not let the heat of my wrath burn. I shall not turn to destroy Ephraim, for I am El and not man, the Kadosh one in your midst, and I shall not come in enmity. Let them follow YaHuWaH. Like a lion he roars. When he roars, then suns shall tremble from the west. They shall tremble like a bird from Mitzrayim, and like a dove from the land of Asher. And I shall let them dwell in their own houses, declares YaHuWaH. Ephraim has surrounded me with lying, and the house of Israel with deceit. But Yehuda is still wandering with El, and is true to the Kadosh One.
Isn't that beautiful?
It is beautiful.
I just remembered Bonnie wanted to look up the word prince.
The chief she was talking about.
Yes. Yeah, prince and chiefs.
36 is the one that talked about all the chiefs. There's a chief in 36:41.
I just remembered, so I thought we better go there.
It's aloof. How about that? You can be aloof.
Oh.
You can be a chief. You see there, aloof? It's aleph with a wa in there. Aloof. It says, or shortened taloof. How does it get shortened to taloof from aloof? From aleph lamed pei, aleph. Familiar, a friend, also gentle. Hence a bullock as being tame. So there's something about being tame. Applied, although masculine, to a cow. And so a chieftain, as notable like neat cattle, captain, duke, chief, friend, governor, guide, and ox.
You know what that reminds me of? Remember the barakah that Isaac gave to Esau, the yoke on the neck. With all of that, the bullock, the cattle, it just reminds me of the yoke that they will break.
Mm-hmm.
It just come into my head. That was all.
Yeah, I think we'll be talking about that. Going back to Hosea. This chapter, we're talking about Ephraim versus Yehuda. So much deception and lying. I wanted to see what verse 10 meant in the commentary here. They shall go up after YaHuWaH, who roars as a lion. Yea, he shall roar so that the children, says lions accompanied Egyptian monarchs to the battlefield. That's pretty cool. They took lions with them. Not sure those are domesticated like the chiefs we just looked at, the aloofs. Tremble, come with an awe-stricken joy to the voice of the divine summons. That's pretty awesome. When you think about the word tremble, i.e. come with an awe-stricken joy. That's
wow.
Cool. Yeah. They shall walk after the Adon, or it should be they shall walk after YaHuWaH. Yeah, they should go up after YaHuWaH. See, this is what I don't like about these English translations here. They shall walk after YaHuWaH. The remnant shall hearken to Elohim's call. I shall comply with his commands when he shall when he shall convert them by the powerful preaching of his Besorah and the efficacious influence of his favor. He shall roar like a lion. That is, he will show terrible signs of his anger, and then they will fear and obey him. That's when. He will show terrible signs of his anger, and then they will fear and obey him. Elohim's voice is elsewhere compared to the roaring of a lion because of the terror which accompanies it. Then it says, see the margin. I don't know what margin they're talking about. What margin? All right, I don't see margin. The Chaldee says the word of YaHuWaH shall roar as a lion, and the words may be interpreted of the powerful voice of the Besorah. So they're saying what could have to do with the Besorah, aka the gospel, the Tob news, sent forth and sounding all over the world and calling sinners to repentance. The most learned commentators agree, says Bishop Horsley, that this roaring of the lion is the sound of the Besorah, and that the subject of this and the following verse is its promulgation and progress, the conversion of the Gentiles, and the final restoration of the Jews. Conversion of the Gentiles. With a loud and most powerful voice shall he preach the Besorah, says Piscator, and to the same effect Rivetus and Bocart. As a lion by its roaring calls the animals of its own kind to a participation of the prey, so Mashiach by the powerful voice of the Besorah shall call all nations to the fellowship of eternal high. The preaching of the Besorah reaching the remotest corners of the earth is frequently represented under the image of the loudest sounds, and this loudness of the sound alone might justify the figure of the roaring lion, but a greater propriety of the figure will appear if we recollect that the first demonstrations of mercy to the trustworthy will be the judgments executed on the anti-believer persecutors, to whom the sound of the Besorah will be a sound of terror. When he shall roar, then the children shall tremble from the west. The word Yachordu, rendered shall tremble, describes the motion which a bird makes with its wings when it flies. Dr. Waterland renders it shall come fluttering, and Bishop Horsley shall hurry. The primary sense of the passage may be that at this efficacious call of Elohim, the remnant of Israel who shall be accounted his children and heirs of the promises made to their fathers shall come in haste from the several places of their dispersions, and particularly from the western parts of the world, called the sea in the original, and expressed in Isaiah by the islands of the sea. They shall tremble as a bird out of Egypt, that is, fly with haste as above, as a bird out of Egypt.
Or wasn't it the eagle on eagle's wings? It talks about the eagle.
Yeah, I think he's
And
quoting specifically from one of these. Isaiah 24:14 says, they shall lift up their voice, they shall sing for the majesty of YaHuWaH, they shall cry aloud from the sea. And then this one, Isaiah 11:11 says, and it shall come to pass in that day that YaHuWaH shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea. So that's also talking about like an AKA second Exodus.
isn't that where the 10 tribes have been dispersed to? Or are they the 10 tribes that they're talking about?
I think they're talking about the 10 tribes.
Yeah.
That YaHuWaH shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people. Technically, it's talking about the remnant of his people. Great numbers of the Jews were exiles in Egypt and Assyria, and therefore when the restoration of the Jews is spoken of, Egypt and Assyria are mentioned as countries from whence a great number of them should return. And I will place them in their houses. I will bring them back to their own country and habitations, like as the stork returns to her nest. Now we're talking about stork. And the dove to the dovecot. This prophecy may be considered as receiving its completion in part when some of the Israelites, being recovered to the worship of the true Elohim, returned to Judea with the 2 tribes of Judah and Benjamin, brought back to their own land from their captivity in Babylon. But the full accomplishment of it will not take place till the latter days, when the fullness of the Gentiles being brought in by the preaching of the Besorah, all Israel shall be saved. These verses contain a wonderful prophecy of the promulgation and progress of the Besorah and the restoration of the race of Israel. The race of Israel. The first clause of the 10th verse states generally that they shall be brought to repentance. In what follows, the circumstances and progress of the business are described. First, YaHuWaH shall roar. The roaring is unquestionably the sound of the Besorah. So they seem to be in agreement, just these couple of commentaries we've looked at, they seem to be in agreement that this roaring of YaHuWaH is the sound of the Besorah. YaHuWaH himself shall roar, the sound shall begin to be uttered by the voice of the incarnate YaHuWaH himself. That's really, really awesome.
It is, but just a thought, for all YaShaREL to be saved, that's all the 10 tribes. There's not just one tribe. There's one people, but there's not just one tribe.
Yeah. The first effect shall be that children shall come fluttering from the west, a new race of children, converts of the Gentiles. That's really cool, for it is remarkable that the expression is neither their children nor my children, but simply children. So they think that this commentary thinks this is remarkable. It's not their children, it's not my children, it's simply children. The first would limit.
Children of Israel.
Yeah.
Those that are dispersed throughout the world, that Father is going to call home. Those that set themselves apart and overcome. A special promise to those that overcome. And it's in the book of Revelation.
Restoration. We were just talking, I think, before we started recording about the restoration of all things. So restoration of the race of Israel. And we can begin to walk in these things. When you have to fill out forms at doctor's offices or, taxes, wherever they say, well, what race are you? You can literally declare it and claim it in those places. I usually say Hebrew. I really want to be truthful with this and step outside of their, well, they've got, well, you could be 1 or you could be 2 or you could be 3 or you could be 4. And I'd be like, no, I'm 7. Like, I want to mess with their definitions and their lack of, if we have these definitions and we make somebody claim to be one of these things, then they're in agreement with us that they are one of these things.
Yeah.
Effect shall be that children shall come fluttering from the west, a new race of children, converts of the Gentiles. I say, but simply children. The first would limit the discourse of the natural Israel exclusively, their children. So that would be limiting to the physical, biological line. The second would be nearly of the same effect, as it would express such as were already children at the time of the roaring. But the word children, put nakedly without either of those epithets, expresses those who were neither of the natural Israel nor children at the time of the roaring, but were roused by that sound and then became children, that is, adopted children by natural extraction Gentiles. Is that not what we experienced? Were we not roused as Gentiles, as Gentile Christians, believers? Many of us have been roused, and we came to understand that we are Israel.
Definitely. Once that curse was lifted.
And so if he can lift it for us, he can lift it for family members who aren't there yet. I think we're a first fruits kind of thing. And so that when all this goes down, there'll be some people that have been trained up in the ways of Yahuwah's word. This is what we're doing now. These shall come chiefly from the western quarters of the world, or what the scriptures call the West, for no part, I think, of Asia Minor, Syria, or Palestine is reckoned a part of the East in the language of the Old Testament. Afterward, the natural Israel shall hurry from all the regions of their dispersion. So it sounds like it's calling Gentiles first, and then it says, afterward, the natural Israel shall hurry from all the regions of their dispersion and be settled in their own dwellings. Is to be observed that the roaring is mentioned twice. It will be most consistent with the style of the prophets to take this as two roarings. All right, most consistent with the style of the prophets to take this as two roarings, and to refer the hurrying of the children from the west to the first roaring, the hurrying from Egypt and Assyria to the second. The times of the two roarings are the first and second advent. The first brought children from the west. The renewed preaching of the Besorah at the second will bring home the Jews. It probably means all of Israel, by the way. And perhaps this second sounding of the Besorah may be, more remarkably, even than the first, a roaring of YaHuWaH in person.
Hallelujah.
Yes. With this verse, the chapter is closed in the Hebrew text and the Syriac version, and the following verse is given to the next chapter. But the division of the Septuagint, Vulgate, and Chaldee which our public translation follows seems preferable. They're just talking about a delineation between the chapter. All right, so we'll go on to Hosea 12. Ephraim is feeding on wind and pursuing an east wind. All the day he increases falsehood and ruin, and they make a covenant with Asher, and oil is sent to Mitzrayim, Egypt. And Yahuwah has a controversy with Yehuda to punish Ya'aqob according to his ways, to repay him according to his deeds. He took his brother by the heel in the womb, and in his strength he strove with Elohim. He strove with the messenger and overcame. We already read about that. He wept and sought his favor. He found him in Bethel, and there he spoke to us. Even Yahuwah Elohim of hosts, Yahuwah Elohim Zabaoth, Yahuwah is his remembrance. Therefore return to your Elohim, guard kindness and right ruling, and wait on your Elohim continually. A merchant, in his hand are scales of deceit. He loves to oppress. And Ephraim says, indeed, I have become rich. I have found wealth for myself. In all my labors, they shall find in me no crookedness, that is sin. But I am Yahuwah your Elohim, since the land of Mitzrayim, since Egypt. Again, I shall make you dwell in tents, as in the days of the appointed time. The Sukkot. Again,
Wow.
keeping Sukkot.
That's the promise.
Yeah. And I've spoken, so it sort of sounds like you're going to be living in tents as in the days of Sukkot, but
You're getting
going to be living in tents. Yeah. And I've spoken to the prophets and have increased visions, and through the prophets I gave parables. Is Gilad wicked? Certainly they have been false. In Gilgal they have offered bulls. Also their altars are as heaps on a plowed field. And when Ya'aqob fled to the country of Aram, Yisrael served for a wife, and for a wife he kept watch. So that was the reading in chapter 12. YaHuWaH has a controversy with Yehuda to punish Ya'aqob. Wow, let's look at the commentary on verse 2. It says, Ephraim, so this is 1-6. Ephraim feeds himself with vain hopes of help from man when he is at enmity with Elohim. The Jews vainly, this sort of reminds me of the whole President Trump kind of concept here. Vain hopes of help from man when he is at enmity with Elohim. The Jews vainly thought to secure the Egyptians by a present of the produce of their country. Judah is contended with also. Elohim sees the sin of his own people and will reckon with them for it. They are put in mind of what Ya'aqob did and what YaHuWaH did for him. When his belief upon the divine promise prevailed above his fears, then by his strength he had power with Elohim. He is YaHuWaH, the same that was and is to come. What was a revelation of Elohim to one is his memorial to many, his name, to all generations. That's what he was talking about, his name there. Then let those who have gone from Elohim be turned to him. Turn you to YaHuWaH by repentance and belief as your Elohim. Let those that are converted to him walk with him in all kadosh conversation and righteousness. Let us wrestle with him for promise birakot. Determine not to give over till we prevail. Prevailing is what we are supposed to do because we are, that Ya'aqob is our ancestor. We are to prevail. We do not give over till we prevail. And let us seek him in his ordinances.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Anything else you guys want to talk about in Hebrews or in Hosea 12 that we read? Okay, I'm going to go to Obadiah. Obadiah. So this is a vision, and it's about Esau, Edom. We have heard a report from YaHuWaH, and a messenger has been sent among the nations, saying, Arise and let us rise up against her for battle. Concerning Edom, you are greatly despised. Go back to that bowl of lentil soup. You are greatly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you. You dwell in the clefts of the rock, whose dwelling is high, who say in your heart, Who shall bring me down to the ground? Though you rise high as the eagle, and though you set your nest among the stars, from there I shall bring you down. Kind of sounds like he's talking to the wealthy.
Yeah, well, I've got all this wealth, and I did this, and I got it, and blah, blah, blah. No, all our wealth comes from and is owned by who? The creator of the universe.
It says, if thieves came to you, if robbers by night, how ruined you would have been. Would they not steal till they had enough? If grape gatherers had come to you, would they not leave gleanings? How Esau shall be searched out, his hidden treasure shall be sought out. Going to be robbed. Your friends shall deceive you and overpower you. They make your bread a snare under you without you discerning it. That's the thing about snares. They're not discerned. In that day, he says, I'll destroy the wise men from Edom and discernment from the mountains of Esau. And your mighty men shall be discouraged. Everyone from the mountains of Esau is cut off by slaughter. Because of your violence against your brother Ya'aqob, let shame cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. So far, we didn't hear about violence. He wanted to kill him at first, but then he got over that. You shall be cut off forever. Cut off and cut off. In the day that you stood on the other side, in the day that strangers took captive his wealth. So he's talking about Ya'aqob's wealth. So this was another event, not where we've been reading today. When foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you also were like one of them. So this was another event where Edom came against Ya'aqob, YaShaREL.
You don't think that was when he was going back home from leaving Laban?
No, I don't. I think there's another event in scripture where Edom stood by. It may be in the book of Judges.
Okay.
Yeah, because he didn't. He was like, no, you keep your stuff and everything's okay.
Yeah, I think it was in the Targums that it was speaking that he was trying to give back what he had stole deceitfully.
Uh-huh. In the day that you stood on the other side, in the day that strangers took captive his wealth, this was a different day than what we read about in Genesis. When foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you also were like one of them. And you should not have looked on your brother's day in the day of his estrangement. nor rejoiced. So we've got the day of his estrangement. Then we've got the day of their destruction.
When it just said that they cast lots for Jerusalem. Remember when they casted lots in the book of Esther?
Mm-hmm.
Enter the gates and cast lots for Jerusalem. That's just what come to my head. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just casting lots, but in this case, it was. I think they were like gambling. I'm not sure. We could go and look at the commentary on verse 11, but somehow Jerusalem was picked. Commentary verse 11. Let's see what Matthew Henry says, because he does a really great job of telling us what's going on in several verses context. This prophecy is against Edom. Its destruction seems to have been typical as their father Esau's rejection, and to refer to the destruction of the enemies of the Besora assembly. See the prediction of the success of that war. Edom shall be spoiled and brought down. All the enemies of Elohim's assembly shall be disappointed in the things they stay themselves on. Elohim can easily lay those low who magnify and exalt themselves, and will do it. Easy for him to do. Take them down. Take their pride down. Carnal security ripens men for ruin. Wow. What a statement.
Yeah.
And makes the ruin worse when it comes. Treasures on earth cannot be so safely laid up, but that thieves may break through and steal. It is therefore our wisdom to lay up for ourselves treasures in heaven. Those that make flesh their trust arm it against themselves. Wow. What a statement.
We're told that in scripture.
Those that make flesh their trust arm it against themselves. The Elohim of our covenant will never deceive us. But if we trust men with whom we join ourselves, it may prove to us a wound and dishonor. Elohim will justly deny those understanding to keep out of danger, Elohim will justly deny those understanding to keep out of danger, who will not use their understandings to keep out of sin. Wow. Trying to keep out of danger, not keep out of sin. All violence, all unrighteousness is sin, but it makes the violence far worse if it be done against any of Elohim's people. Their barbarous conduct towards Yehuda and Jerusalem is charged upon them. In reflecting on ourselves, it is told to consider what we should have done, to compare our practice with the scripture rule. Sin, thus looked upon in the glass of the commandment, will appear exceedingly sinful. Those have a great deal to answer for who are idle spectators of the troubles of their neighbors when able to be active helpers. Wow. Those make themselves poor who think to make themselves rich by the ruin of the people of Elohim, and those deceive themselves who call all that their own on which they can lay their hands in a day of calamity. Though judgment begins at the house of Elohim, it shall not end there. Let sorrowful believers and insolent oppressors know that the troubles of the righteous will soon end, but those of the wicked will be eternal. The troubles of the righteous will soon end, but those of the wicked will be eternal. Hallelujah. Barnes says, in the day that you stood on the other side, the time when they so stood is not defined in itself as a past or future. It is literally in the day of your standing over against, i.e., to gaze on the calamities of Elohim's people. In the day of strangers carrying away his strength, the strength of your brother Ya'aqob, of whom he had just spoken, and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots on Jerusalem, you too as one of them. One of them they were not. Edom was no stranger, no alien, no part of the invading army. He whose strength they carried away was, he had just said, his brother Ya'aqob. Edom burst the bonds of nature to become what he was not, as one of them. He purposely does not say you two were as of them, as he would have said had he wished to express what was past. Obadiah, seeing in prophetic vision the destruction of Jerusalem and the share with the Edomites took thereat, describes it as it is before his eyes as past. So he's seeing it as a prophet, as if it's in the past, but it very well could be very much in the future still. We see before us the enemy carrying off all in which the human strength of Yehuda lay, his forces and his substance, and casting lots on Jerusalem, its people and its possessions. He describes it as past yet, not more so than the visitation itself, which was to follow some centuries afterward. Of both he speaks alike as past, of both as future. He speaks of them as past, as being so beheld in his mind, in whose name he speaks. In his mind, YaHuWah's mind, in whose name he speaks. Elohim's certain knowledge does not interfere with our free agency. Elohim compels no one to sin, yet foresees all who shall sin of their own will. How then should he not justly avenge what foreknowing he does not compel them to do? For as no one by his memory compels to be done things which pass, so Elohim by his foreknowledge does not compel to be done things which will be. And as man remembers some things which he has done, and yet has not done all which he remembers, so Elohim foreknows all things whereof he is himself the author, and yet is not himself the author of all which he foreknows. Of those things, then, of which he is no evil author, he is the just avenger. This one talks about the cast lots upon Jerusalem. So Messiah, Jerusalem's antitype, had lots cast for his only earthly possessions.
Casting lots that they're talking about is always for somebody's destruction or taking something from somebody.
Yeah. Here it talks about, so robbers divided their prey and conquerors with the casting of lots.
They cast lot for their garments,
Yeah.
for his garment. Yeah.
Because of your violence against your brother Ya'aqob, let shame cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. Cutting off by slaughter, cut off forever. In the day that you stood on the other side.
15, for the day that YaHuWaH is near upon all the Gentiles.
Yeah.
As you have done, it shall be done to you. Your reward shall come back on your own head.
For as you have drunk on my Kodesh mountain, so do all the Gentiles drink continually, and they shall drink and shall swallow, and they shall be as though they had never been.
Would you read 16 again?
For as you have drunk on my Kodesh mountain, so do all the Gentiles drink continually, and they shall drink and shall swallow, and they shall be as though they had never been. But on Mount Zion there shall be an escape, and they shall be Kodesh, and the house of Ya'aqob shall possess their possessions. And the house of Ya'aqob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, but the house of Esau for stubble. And they shall burn among them, and they shall consume them, so that no survivor is left of the house of Esau. For YaHuWaH has
spoken.
And they shall possess the south with the mountains of Esau, and low country with the Philistines, and they shall possess the fields of Ephraim, and the fields of Shomeron, and Benjamin with Gilad. And the exiles of this host, as the children of YaShaREL, possess that of the Canaanites, as far as Zarephath, and the exiles of Jerusalem, who are in Sepharad, and possess the cities of the south. And saviors shall come to Mount Zion to judge the mountains of Esau, and the reign shall belong to YaHuWaH.
So all of that saying basically that Esau, rejoices over the misfortune of his brother, where scripture and Yahushua has said, love one another as I have loved you. Brotherly love.
The day of YaHuWaH is near upon all the Gentiles. As you have done, it shall be done to you. Your reward shall come back on your own head. Okay, let's move on to Matthew 2. It's kind of interesting just to sort of get what is the thread here through what we're reading. And this is 13 to 23. When they had left, see, a messenger of YaHuWaH appeared to Joseph in a dream. Arise, take the child and his mother, and flee to Mitzrayim. Remain there until I bring you word, for Herod is about to seek the child to destroy him. And rising up, he took the child and his mother by night and departed for Mitzrayim. So they left in the night when everybody else is done with their work and they're ready to settle in for the evening. They left by night.
Who else did that? They left Mitzrayim.
They did. And also, I thought you were going to say Lot. They had to leave before daybreak, yeah?
Yes.
And it says to fill. So again, we're in Matthew chapter 2. To fill what was spoken by YaHuWaH through the prophet, saying, out of Mitzrayim I have called my son. Then Herodes, having seen that he was fooled by the Magi, was greatly enraged. Fooled and enraged. And he sent forth and slew all the male children in Bethlehem and in all its borders from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had exactly learnt from the Magi. Then was filled another prophecy, spoken by Yirmiyahu, saying, a voice was heard in Ramah, wailing and weeping, and great mourning. Rachel, weeping for her children, refused to be comforted because they were no more.
Well, that's parallel to what ended up happening in today's Torah portion. She was crying, wailing, the son of sorrow, Benjamin.
Yeah, all the male children. So this is also a reminder of Egypt, and that they had the order had gone out from the king to slay all of the male children.
And this is why Moshe is likened to YaHuWaH, because he was spared.
He was spared, yeah, and hidden away.
Yeah.
So after Herodes died, a messenger of Yahuwah appeared in a dream to Joseph, saying, arise and take the child and his mother and go into the land of YaShaREL, for those seeking the life of the child are dead. And rising up, he took the child and his mother and came into the land of YaShaREL. But hearing that Archelaus was reigning over Yehuda instead of his father Herodes, he was afraid to go there. And having been warned in a dream, he departed to the parts of Galilee and came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, thus to fulfill. So we're now told about a third prophecy being fulfilled just in this chapter 2. He shall be called a Nazarene.
And then you've got Joseph in Mitzrayim, who had a dream about the 7 years and then became second to Pharaoh. It's saying here in Joseph in a dream saying, arise and take the child and its mother and flee to Mitzrayim, right?
Yeah.
Here if you go back into Bereshit, you've got Joseph who was sold into Mitzrayim.
Yeah.
The way that he got out of the prison was because he had a dream. He was the interpreter of the dream and became second in charge to Pharaoh. What has happened will happen. It's what you see, what is in the new is in the old.
In the Aramaic, it's Natsaraya. Here, instead of Nazarene, it's Natsaraya. Nun, Zadi, Resh, Yod, Aleph. Messenger in the dream to Joseph. Herodes having died, see, a messenger of Yahuwah appeared in a dream to Joseph in Mitzrayim. Yeah, so it's the idea is Joseph in Mitzrayim. I see that, a dream interpreter. But this is Joseph.
I like to just go and see the parallels of what has been and what it before and after. Father never changes, it's all there.
Where does it tell about how Herod died? Is that just extra biblical books, or?
It's either in the Targums or it could be in the book of Nicodemus. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
How did Herod die? See if even Wikipedia would tell us. And let me just put in Wikipedia. Sometimes there's just great information there. They say he died in 4 BC.
In Bible Hub there, if you go to topical on that bar, top, that means topical.
Okay, and then Herod here?
Yeah. I wonder if it'll say anything in that. I think I'd prefer to go by what's in Bible Hub than
well, for sure, but you know what? They've got the same year, BC 4. Though of Idumean origin and thus alien by race, was Jewish in belief. Herod the Great was the second son of Antipater, an Idumean, who was appointed procurator of Judea by Julius Caesar, 47 BCE. Immediately after his father's elevation, I'll go bigger here. Immediately after his father's elevation, when only 15 years old, he received the government of Galilee, and shortly afterward that of Soel, Syria. Though Josephus says he was 15 years old at this time, it is generally conceded that there must be some mistake, as he lived to be 69 or 70 years old and died BC 4. Hence, he must have been 25 years old at this time. In BC 41, he was appointed by Antony, Tetrarch of Judea. Forced to abandon Judea the following year, he fled to Rome and received the appointment of king of Judea. In the course of a few years, by the help of the Romans, he took Jerusalem, 37 BCE, and completely established his authority throughout his dominions. The terrible acts of bloodshed which Herod perpetrated in his own family were accompanied by others among his subjects equally terrible from the number who fell victims to them. According to his well-known story, he ordered the nobles whom he had called to him in his last moment to be executed immediately after his decease, that so at least his death might be attended by universal mourning. It was at the time of his fatal illness that he must have caused the slaughter of the infants at Bethlehem. He adorned Jerusalem with many splendid monuments of his taste and magnificence. The temple which he built with scrupulous care was the greatest of these works. The restoration was begun BC 20, and the temple itself was completed in a year and a half. But fresh additions were constantly made in succeeding years, so that it was said that the temple was built in 46 years. The work continued long after Herod's death. Herod died of a terrible disease at Jericho in April BC 4 at the age of 69 after a long reign of 37 years. Herod Antipas was the son of Herod the Great by Malthake, a Samaritan. He first married a daughter of Aretas, king of Arabia, Petrea, but afterward Herodias, the wife of his half-brother Herod Philip. Aretas, indignant at the insult offered to his daughter, found a pretext for invading the territory of Herod and defeated him with great loss. This defeat, according to the famous passage in Josephus, was attributed by many to the murder of John the Baptist, which had been committed by Antipas shortly before under the influence of Herodias. They don't go too much into his death there, what he died of. But my understanding is that YaHuWaH was born in 2 BC, so one of those dates are not right.
Yeah, well, that's when he died. He was already sent to
Egypt.
YaHuWaH was already sent to Mitzrayim, wasn't he?
Yeah. And I had read somewhere that he had died of like worms in his intestines breaking out.
Yeah. It was like all the boils, the worms, the everything, all the curses that were sent on Mitzrayim.
So if he died in BC 4, then that means YaHuWaH had to have been born before that, before 4.
For that, yeah.
But there's a way to figure out when he died, and that is going through Luke, because Luke talks about it. I think it's in Luke 3.
I like that topical button. And the timeline one there too is also Tob.
Yeah, so there's a way to figure out when he was born, and it has to do with this 15th year of Tiberius Caesar, which is one day after his 14 years is in the 15th year. But anyway, there's more. I think there may be more to it than he died in 4 BC. But anyway, we were going to look at how he died, and I think it was something about worms in his intestines or something that were so horrible, and he smelled bad. He had wounds from it. He was killing his descendants, his wife. I don't remember where I read about that. He was very jealous and maybe even paranoid personality disorder. All right, so let's go to Matthew 26:36. So we were given 3 different prophecies that were fulfilled during that time, 26:36 to 46. And this is where he's praying. Sit here while I go over there and pray. My being is exceedingly grieved, even to death. Stay here and watch with me. This kind of makes me think of what we just read in Obadiah about how Esau was not with them, was not supporting them, was watching. It had become as one of their the people that were coming to destroy them. Oh, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not as I desire, but as you desire. Were you not able to watch with me 1 hour? He says, watch and pray lest you enter into trial. Watch and pray lest you enter into trial. The Ruach indeed is eager, but the flesh is weak. He asks a second time, if it's possible for this to pass unless I drink it, let your desire be done. Finds them asleep again. And he says he prayed the third time saying the same words. 3 times, same words.
So there's 3 witnesses. He's put it out there 3 times.
Yeah. He put it out there 3 times. And then he says, still sleeping and taking rest. See, the hour has come near, and the Son of Man is delivered up into the hands of sinners. See, he who delivers me up has come near. And this is very much a picture of that Esau. I think that's what we're seeing here. He says he's delivered into the hands of sinners. Okay, we're going to go over to Hebrews now, Hebrews 11. This is sort of like codes, because when you bring these readings all together, they're brought forth and there's some sort of a theme happening with just looking at these particular scriptures. And all of a sudden in this reading that we are following, all of a sudden now we're at Hebrews 11, verse 11. And we start there, and we're talking about Sarah, which is part of YaShaREL's name. Sarah herself was she was given the power to conceive seed, and she bore a child when she was past the normal age, because she deemed him trustworthy who had promised.
That nothing is impossible for YaHuWaH.
Of course, at first she laughed, so she overcame that. She overcame that lack of belief at first. And so from one, and him as Tobah's dead, were born as numerous as the stars of the heaven, as countless as the sand which is by the seashore. In belief all these died, not having received the promises, but seeing them from a distance, welcomed and embraced them, and confessed that they were aliens and strangers on the earth. For those who speak this way make it clear that they seek a fatherland. And yet, if they had indeed kept remembering that place from which they had come out, they would have had the chance to return. And now they long for a better place, that is heavenly, a heavenly. Therefore, Elohim is not ashamed to be called their Elohim, for he has prepared a city for them. By belief, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Yitzchak, and he who had received the promises offered up his only brought forth son, of whom it was said, in Yitzchak your seed shall be called, reckoning that Elohim was able to raise even from the dead, from which he received him back as a type. There's the type again. We just read about that in Yerushalayim and the casting of the lots with the Messiah as well being a type. By belief, Yitzchak, Baruch, Ya'aqob, and Esaw concerning that which was to come.
Yes.
So concerning that which was to come, we saw that also in Genesis 49 that you brought up, Teza. And that was also considered a blessing for Ya'aqob to his kids.
Yeah, Esau got the Barakah as well, because his seed grew and grew. It was just as much. It's the same as Ishmael. They received all these blessings. So when you think about all of that, Father is trustworthy to fulfill everything. And what we end up doing with it, like it's Father who gives it and he who takes away.
Yeah.
So it's like when you go back and read through the Torah portions, when Abraham, he heard, he listened, and he obeyed what Father had told him. When he went into Egypt, into Mitzrayim there, he refused to take all the gifts that he was giving for his bride back for Sarah. He refused them. He said, forbid it that you make me wealthy. And it's the same thing again when it come to Isaac. But I think Isaac ended up taking, that's how he got his wealth? Or was it the wealth that I can't remember. I'm going to have to go back and read that today. Do you remember whether Isaac ended up taking?
Well, I know YaHuWaH made him wealthy with his crops, right? He made him wealthy with crops.
So I don't think he did take it. But then I'll go back and read it today.
There was another time where the king came back, I think, and said, here, you take these things, and because we know YaHuWaH was with you. There may have been a time when he gave him gifts.
When you think about that, look at what is happening in today's reading. Here is Jacob is trying to give back all of the things that he took from Esau.
Yeah.
Right? In the book of Jasher, it talks about that Jacob ended up being sent from his father to go to Laban
Yeah.
with herds, with gold, with silver. But Esau sent his son to go and kill Jacob. And Jacob ended up giving over everything that his father had given him to go and purchase a bride. That's what it reads in the book of Jasher.
Mm.
Jasher 29:30.
I think it's also interesting that there's this enmity between the siblings. Parents love their children so much. And then among the 12 that Ya'aqob had, it was like, well, let's pick on Joseph. He's got some sort of calling or something, or he thinks he's all that and more. And he's dad's favorite. Dad made a coat for him. And there's this jealousy, and there's just sort of a backstabbing kind of energy sometimes between siblings or their descendants even.
Yes. Well, he was the firstborn son of his beloved bride.
Exactly. The wife that he really loved. Probably the children were aware, the older ones especially, were aware of this rival.
It says that Reuben was aware of it. That's why he ended up sleeping with her handmaid, so that Jacob, his father, would love Leah.
Oh, where does it say that?
Book of Jasher, yes.
Wow.
He ended up living out his days with Leah. There's some stories sort of say she died also and whatnot, but I don't know. I haven't read that one. But what I found in today's passage, why was Deborah buried in Bethlehem?
Yeah, that was weird because it was Ribka's nurse.
That's right. In the book of Jasher, it talks about that at the time of Benjamin's birth and Rachel's death, Rachel and her handmaid, which was Deborah, went to the sun. In the book of Jasher, it's just, there's so much.
At the time that Rachel died, Benjamin was born, Ribka's nurse died, and she was buried below Bethel. Okay.
So the question is, why was Deborah there? Because she was Ribka's.
Yeah, she's Ribka's nurse.
Yes. In the book of Jasher, this is from memory, that both Deborah and Rebecca went to meet Esau. Not Esau, Jacob. And it was about the time of Rachel's death and the birth of Benjamin.
Okay.
But Bilpah, who was Rachel's handmaid, she became the wet nurse to Benjamin.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just so much in there. So much in there. Like I've got an A4 book that I write bits and pieces in. And it's just, and then you've got to add this and add that.
So do you think that she then not only is a wet nurse, but she became his mother? Who raised him?
I'd say that between Leah and Bilpah, they both did. I think even though there was contention between all of them, you know what it's like when you've got children, and yes, okay, you favor your own. Yeah. But they're all your own. You're always looking out for them. So that's my thoughts anyway.
Yeah. And he definitely would have been the baby.
Yeah.
He's definitely the baby. And maybe this was Leah's sister that died.
Yes.
Yeah, you could imagine Leah raising him.
Yeah, if anyone gets the chance to read the book of Jasher, it's well worth the read.
Yeah, there's so much there. There's just so much to shed some color on the story.
Chew the meat, spit out the bones.
Exactly.
That's all.
Yeah, it's not in the scriptures.
So, but it is the book of the upright. That's the meaning of it.
The book of the upright. That's right. Well, Teza, I think I'm about done for today. I think we've covered a lot, and I'm thankful we covered as much as we did. So much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it just the two of us left here? I'm not even sure who's.
No, Amber's still here. Whether she's awake or
Amber,
whether she's awake.
You got any thoughts on today's study?
I'm taking it all in. Like, I feel like such like I'm not even in preschool yet when I get with you ladies, but I'm gleaming.
Oh, we're glad you're here for sure. Then and feel free to pipe up anytime. I also think it's interesting here, just as a closing comment here, is that just like YaHuWaH made these conversations with Abraham and Yitzhak, he's like, I'm El Shaddai. You're gonna become a nation and nations and sovereigns coming from your body. It's all very much what he had to say to Abraham and Yitzhak as well. And as his life is not limited like a man's life, he keeps moving forward generation by generation, it looks like, to make that calling sure and personal. So personal with Ya'aqob.
It has to be a personal walk. This is what I take out of it. You can't let somebody else have a relation. You can't have a person between you and the Father. You have to have that personal relationship.
That's right. It is personal. It's very personal.
One-on-one.
I look forward to the time when there is a shaking and people that are not walking with the Father now become woken up and shaken awake, and they begin to regard him and they hear from him. What did it say? That roaring of the lion that's going to come directly from him. I look forward to that.
Yeah, and from what side is it going to roar from? Did it say the east?
I don't
Can you
recall.
remember?
I don't recall where it said.
It's in 11:10. Let them follow YaHuWaH. Like a lion he roars. When he roars, then the sun shall tremble from the west.
And I just love that definition of tremble that we saw.
Yeah. I'm so glad you stuck. I'm so glad that Amber stuck with us.
Me too. Me too, for sure.
Me three.
Come with an awe-stricken joy to the voice of the divine summons. I love that. That's
Gonna have to put that in description.
May this video enrich your love in and understanding of our Abba YaHuWaH and His Word. Much has been hidden. Together let's seek the restoration of all truth. A Light Unto the Gentiles channel invites you to join the Hebrew Restoration and Code Searching team. Please email us at alightuntothe@gmail.com to let us know of your interest. Looking for fellowship? We invite you to join our Facebook group, Code Searching Hebrews. Love, truth, and revelation are vital in these last days. The Hebrew Restoration and Code Searching Ministries, through A Light Unto the Gentiles, serves YaHuWaH and the sheep from our Father's pasture. Please prayerfully consider a monthly donation to Restoration Farms Incorporated. Links are provided for you below in the description.